Good evening, YouTube. My name is Yusuf and you are watching my news channel. Today I will be making a very quick summary or update of the weather because since a couple of days we actually have a normalized polar vortex. And this is good news because let me show you something. Just a month ago, this was for May, so at the beginning of May, the polar vortex, and I made a video about it, has been all over the place. For example, here we can see 4 clusters, which were literally all over the place, mostly over the Atlantic, instead of over the Arctic and over Siberia also. And yeah, back then people said, oh, well, this is nothing, this is normal, it has always been like this. And this is, of course, nonsense. This is how the polar vortex looks like. And when we look at the South Pole, and I mentioned this in my previous video, this is how it should be. And now you have actually the confirmation of this. This is how the polar vortex should be. One cluster, one circular shape hovering above the poles, here over the North Pole. And when this slows down, we have, of course, a negative Arctic oscillation. And when the polar vortex breaks up in several parts, as it did here, in the beginning of the month of May, then, of course, we have extreme weather patterns and unseen weather events. This is, by the way, the reason why so many cold records were broken from April to May. In fact, here in Belgium, we only started to see warm weather since a couple of days. So I think 2 or 3 days, and when we go 3 days back, it was still cold here in Belgium. And I know because I spent my birthday till the 26th in very, very cold conditions at the sea. In fact, I was wearing my winter clothes, so you see it was windy, it was raining and unseasonably cold. So the warmth that actually came to Belgium is just recently. And I will show this in a moment in the climate reanalyzer. But let's take a look at, for example, the temperature anomaly map. We see no anomalies. When we see the geopotential height data, we see actually positive values developing at the end. But I think this will be gone by the month of June, and we will have again negative values and also a positive Arctic oscillation. When we look at the zonal wind, we see no anomalies. So the vorticity is normal over the polar vortex. No problems over there. When we look at the Arctic oscillation, it is slightly positive. Well, it went slightly positive, then a little bit negative, then positive again. So it has a tendency, it wants to go positive. And this is normal because now the polar vortex has regained, has restored itself, so to speak. And I do expect this to continue. And so we might have, after all, a positive Arctic oscillation. And I certainly do hope so in the month of June, because then we will have normal summer values. This is, of course, good news. Those high pressures will be back and warming the European continent. This is, for example, the... Oh yes, let me just show you this over here. It's actually more simple and easier to understand. So the waviness is back in the jet stream, and this is good news because at the height of the polar vortex anomaly, it was literally a horizontal line going from here to Europe, and this has caused those low pressure systems to come one after the other and sucking air from the Arctic all the way to Europe. I showed this in a previous video, and I said back then it shouldn't be like this. It should be a wavy motion surrounding the Arctic. We are now seeing this. The amplitude is still too high, but this cannot be helped because the damage basically has already been done. In the beginning of this spring basically was non-existent. The way I see it, here in Europe, spring just started a few days ago with the restoration of the Polar Vortex. So let's hope this stays like this, so we can have a normal summer this year. So looking at the temperatures, we can see that we are again under influence of warm westerlies. As you can see, the European continent will be warming as expected. And this is good news. And I think it stays like this until the end of the forecast. Let me just look at the anomalies if the colds are not back. Yeah, just briefly. Over Belgium, of course. Let's hope they are wrong about this one. So all in all, everything looks peachy for now. We might have a good start of the summer. Let's hope so. 21 of June. If not, of course, you will know, because I will make next month again a new weather update. So let's switch to something else, earthquakes. Normally I don't do this in my weather videos because I always keep this in my space weather summaries. But there has been a 6.1 in Alaska, and there were quite a few aftershocks as expected. Now the only thing I want to show about earthquakes is what I always show, basically. If you look at everything above 4.5 magnitude, excuse me, you can see that this part of the world, when it comes to earthquakes, is locked. So the San Andreas fault doesn't budge at all. This is very dangerous. I already explained this. The big one is 14 years overdue when we look at statistics. So at one moment it will happen, but what you have here is basically compensation movement, because all the earthquakes happening on this side of the ring of fire, obviously there are more in numbers, and so there is compensation movement everywhere because it can compensate over here. So you will see more earthquakes in the region of Chile. You will see more earthquakes spilling over the Middle East and Asia, and also, of course, Alaska, as you can see over here. So it will trigger fault lines which usually don't show much activity, and this is dangerous because if a big one, let's say if a couple of big ones happen on this side of the ring of fire and this stays locked, it could create a cascade effect, basically triggering everywhere fault lines which normally are dormant. And this, of course, for example, if there's a big one over here, it might then trigger a big one over there, then over here you will have compensation movement everywhere, and the fact that only the San Andreas fault is locked would basically create a spillover effect everywhere and trigger new fault lines and create a cascade effect. Let's hope this is not the case, but who knows. Okay, by now, if you haven't done so, don't forget to subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. You can also hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to turn on the notifications so you won't miss any future content. And I guess we go to the philosophical quotes before I end this video. As usual, I will cite a philosophical quote, and I think we were at oh yes, number 50, I think. Pride is a vice which pride itself inclines every man to find in others and overlook in himself. So a person who has lots of pride will see it in others and condemn them, but never in his own person. This is it, people. Thank you for watching this video, and I guess we see